occurs to me,
Mm-hmm.
Kiana, that you are a literary agent with Donald Maass and esteemed audience. While they love The Last of Us Part 2, is probably getting a little bit impatient
Yes.
with me. Like, oh, for the love of God, Rob, ask her about being a literary agent. What kind of books is she looking? Is she looking for my book? So let's start there. What kind of projects are you seeking?
Oh gosh, I think this really speaks to my upbringing on Lifetime and Chucky and Freddy Krueger. But I really just want dark, messed up stuff that is immersive. I really love narratives that put characters in a place where they have to just choose between their humanity and doing what's necessary for whatever their goal is. Um, uh, something The Last of Us I could go to. So Loki, for instance, in Thor's brother, or like Loki in mythology, or okay, let's go back to Marvel. So Loki and Thor, like, they're brothers, they're really close, but Loki has always had that kind of like jealousy, even though he's always had Thor's back. And after a certain point, he's just like, why am I always following you? I want what I want, and I'll betray you and do all these things. And I really think it's interesting that even though Loki will do that, Loki will poison him, he'll betray him, he'll fool him, he still has Thor's back at the end of the day. So I'd like to see that in a very dark place. And I want that mainly in thrillers. And when I say thrillers, I mean domestic suspense. So again, that's the type of thing where the mystery or the plot or the danger is all about the personal lives of the character. So not like, a CIA agent finds out that a terrorist group is going to attack New York City and needs to figure it out. But like Jessica just found out her neighbor had been drugging all her dogs and trying to find out why. That's really terrible. But in that sense of everything that's connected with the plot has to do with the character, their personal lives, and the people that they're connected with. So like A Little Fires Everywhere, Gone Girl, stuff like that, but just less white suburbia, because I've been in white suburbia my whole life. I've been reading and watching stories about white suburbia my whole life, and I'm a lot bit bored with it at this point. Again, stop me if I'm starting to get a little bit circular. And in genre, I think so. I really love stories that are kind of big, that have big sets, big worlds. That's why I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. I've always been a huge sci-fi fantasy fan my whole life. But I think that for me right now, I have been ingesting so many stories where the main character has this gift or this power and is about to save their city or their world or their people. And I'd rather kind of do a little bit of the side quests, like, what's happening on with another group of characters in that exact same world. So to give a YA fantasy example, it's like the Grisha series. You have the main character, oh my god, I don't remember her name. The main character has this power and has the ability to take over this like dark lord. Please do not tweet me telling me how ashamed and furious you are that I don't remember these characters' names. I think it's the Darkling. But like, so she has to do that, and the whole world is on her shoulders. But I kind of rather like the duology that followed within that same universe, Six of Crows, where it was just like a band of thieves, or like, doing a very much smaller mission that only really affected their lives. I really love that. The same way, to talk about movies, the last Star Wars trilogy, what is it? So that's The Last Jedi, the second one. Do you remember the title
Yeah,
of
The
that?
Last Jedi is this, because it's Rise of Skywalker is the third, and The
Yeah.
Force Awakens is the...
Yeah, so The Last Jedi. And it's like, okay, you have Rey, and she's learning how to use the Force and stuff. But, I really liked Finn and Rose going to Canto fight. Like, I thought that that was really fun. So that's just the kind of thing that I really love. Of course, they are harder sales, and I totally get that because it's like that whole thing between more commercial, high concept, bigger stakes versus smaller stakes. But I do think that there's a way to pitch those and a way to make them more commercially viable, even if they are kind of these more intimate stakes. But I just like, I love that in the horror setting. Like, oh God, I just want, and then most of all, Rob, I want horror. I want to be scared. I want to be so scared I'm dehydrated. Like that's the type of fear that I want. And I think really good comps are like the Luminous Dead, which is an adult sci-fi. Yeah, because it's about caving on planets. So it's like this, the main character goes into this cave by herself to map it out, and she, unbeknownst to her, people who have gone down there before have died. And so it's the only person that she has for company is this voice in her ear of the person that she is assuming is monitoring, you know, her suit that she's in and all this stuff. So that's her only backup. And it's just very claustrophobic, very intimate storytelling. And I first read this, so this is actually a Donald Maass book, but I first read this when it was on submission in an elevator as I was manning it overnight at the High Line as they were putting in some cargo for an event. And so I was in this dark elevator after midnight reading this on my phone, and I was literally about to scream. I was like so terrified. And that's kind of the type, or like anything like Black Mirror, not that it has to be technological, but those are really small, intimate stories that focus on these smaller webs of characters within a larger world. But within that, we are still asking the big questions, you know, what do we mean to each other? What are we willing to do if we have access?
What's your favorite Black Mirror?
Just my favorite Black Mirror episode. Okay. Besides
narrow
the
it down for our esteemed audience who's going to be submitting.
Besides the happiest one, San Junipero, where we get really happy lesbian love story. I'd say, actually, I just watched this recently. It was the Miley Cyrus episode. Is a recent favorite. I thought that was like really cool and really interesting, and it really brings in a conversation about pop culture that I think is kind of missing from genre in a way, and how connected it is in our lives and like our ownership of a public figure and how that perceived ownership manipulates that person in their own personal life behind the scenes. I thought that was really cool. But probably besides that, everything leads to you. No, is that there's one it's within the second season, I believe, and it's about the grain that collects memories, and you can replay them back, and it's about this guy who he's like on this job interview for a promotion at his company, and after he leaves, he flies back out to this dinner with his wife's old friends, and it's kind of about how he obsesses over his perceived readings over these memories that he keeps going over and the things that he saw that night, and how it kind of drives him to destroy his marriage. And I love that because I'm a very obsessive thinker, and I always see like, I don't know, the you know, what can be wrong, like, you know, that anxiousness. And I feel like it's really true to relationships, like, you know, your doubts and how you can let your doubts, like, you really have to have a sense of trust, or, you know. And okay, I don't know if I'm leading anywhere. Just like, but that's like, I really like that because it really has us question, you know, again, how do we interact with each other, with our loved ones, you know, what's important to us, and do we have the ability just to believe?
That makes sense.
Right? So
I'm with you. Oh, I agree. San Junipero's there's no topping it. Although the recent Anthony Mackie video game one, whatever that one was called,
Yeah.
turned my head to the side. Like, ooh, I had not considered any of that, and some of that makes a whole lot of sense. Ah.
Yes, it's like a really cool thing. It's just like, and I think that's the great thing about science fiction and genre, fantasy, like where you can come up with your own concepts of like all this stuff, like, you know, worlds and technology. But it's just like, who would have thought? Not me.